welcome one and all to the Black Mirror DewatchPod. I haven't run that name by my co-host, but we're going with it. My name is Jorgen Smorgasbord.
You actually made it for saying that. I'm kind of impressed. And my name is Jim with a G.
That's right. In this podcast, we watch through Black Mirror, but backwards. Today's episode, and the first episode that we're doing ever, is Season 6, Episode 1, because I look at the Wikipedia summary wrong. Joan is awful. Now, what are our initial feelings here, Jim?
Extremely confused. I will admit, right out of the bat, it was less Charlie Brooker than I thought. It honestly felt like there were only a couple of needles of, the problem of society is people looking at their phones.
Yeah, no. I mean, I suppose we should take a few steps back. Because, the conceit of this podcast is that I haven't seen Black Mirror, and you have.
I have seen Black Mirror, and I have progressively grown to hate it more and more over the years, yet still continue to watch it, because I have no self-respect.
Yes, and because suffering is content, we're going to start with the bad stuff, and then progress to the good stuff, which will also, as you said when we initially conceived of this idea, be tainted by the badness that comes after.
Yeah, I think we'll have so many grudges by the time we get back to, the actually good seasons that they won't be good seasons anymore. They'll just be trash.
Yeah, no, so, here's the thing. So far, I didn't hate this.
No, I didn't either.
Now, I think, you haven't seen Season 6, right?
I have not seen. I think I've seen Season 5, and I should probably research that before we started this to maximize information flow.
Absolutely not.
No, that's right. I think it really hits with the theme of the podcast. But no, really, I haven't watched this, and I enjoyed the episode.
I also enjoyed the episode. I didn't think it was great.
No, I think it is extremely confused, and leaves everyone with confusion.
I really like Annie Murphy, because I've seen almost all of Schitt's Creek, and she is delightfully charming in it.
You did think she was Aubrey Plaza for the first 10 minutes or so?
It's sort of dark in the beginning. But to give us structure, shall we move through the Wikipedia summary of the episode?
Yeah, you told me that's what they do, so...
Yeah, that's what they do on the podcasts.
Which we are doing.
Brief intermission from editing Jorgen here, because we don't really... we get sidetracked a bit of a lot during the episode. So here's just all the summary, kind of abridged in one place. So... Joan is a shitty person with a middle management job. When we meet her, she's having a bad day, she's firing someone at work, and complaining in therapy about her boring boyfriend, Krish, and missing her shitty ex, Mac. She meets Mac for dinner, and they kiss, but she storms off. Home with Krish, they find a streaming show called Joan is Awful. The show is a barely fictionalized version of Joan's life, where she's played by Salma Hayek. Krish leaves after discovering via the streaming show that Joan kissed Mac. Then the streaming program shows Hayek's Joan also discovering Joan is awful in her universe, and the streaming episode essentially catches up with reality in with real time. The next day, Joan is fired due to the show and told by a lawyer that making the show is legal because she agreed to the terms and conditions. We found out that the show is made by a quantum computer using CGI-based virtual actors and real-time spyware from Joan's phone and so on and so forth. In an attempt to get Salma Hayek to stop the show, because Joan can't, Joan dresses as a cheerleader and shits in a church, interrupting a wedding. After this is depicted in Joan is Awful, the TV show, Salma Hayek speaks to a lawyer who also says that, they can just do that. And then she comes to meet Joan, and after a brief conversation where they get to know each other, they decide to destroy the quantum computer together. Sneaking into the company, they pass the CEO having an interview about the show Joan is Awful. When they reach the quantum computer, a technician reveals that they are in a simulated reality, where Joan is based on a source Joan and simulated with the likeness of Annie Murphy. The CEO also arrives and begs Joan to not destroy the quantum computer because that would destroy all realities above theirs. Joan realizes that Source Joan has already decided to smash the computer and helplessly follows suit and smashes the computer. Then the episode ends in the Source reality, where Joan and Annie Murphy celebrate as friends, though they are on house arrest. Source Joan has started a coffee shop, and they basically all live happily ever after. That's the summary, and I'll let you get back to the episode. Now, I guess for our own benefit, what's the opening scene?
I want to say it's her getting up and going to her car, and then, rapping, question mark?
Yeah, that's right.
Attempting to rap?
That is what she does. Joan Tate.
Yeah, I honestly don't think her last name ever comes up,
which is remarkable. Think it comes up.
Which is remarkable given how often her first name comes up for obvious reasons, given that the name of the episode is Joan is Awful.
Yeah, no, so, let's start. Joan Tate, played by the wonderful Annie Murphy, wakes up, eats breakfast made by her fiancé, Krish, played by Avi Nash, and drives to work while lip-syncing to
Saweet's rap tap-in. As you can see, we're both, tapped into this world.
Yeah, we're with the culture. Under instruction from the board of directors, she fires Sandy, played by Ayo Edebiri. I think I didn't mangle that.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
Who worked to reduce the company's carbon emissions. In therapy, Joan contrasts Chris' blandness with her ex-boyfriend Mac, played by Rob Delaney. I feel like I should recognize him, actually. Who is messaging her. She then meets Mac for dinner and they kiss.
Yeah, and I really want to, point out here, terrible chemistry.
Okay, so we're dumb. So I think what's generally happening here in the episode is that they are being coy with the premise.
Mm-hmm.
They have not yet unveiled the premise, which comes in the next paragraph of the Wikipedia summary, and they're just like, "Hey, here's a thing."
Yeah.
And it's hard to get a grasp on because Mac's weird, right? He's a bad boy, but he's not that bad.
He's very I think if you even just visually, if you put him and the safe boy Krish next to each other, I would not think he was the bad boy.
Yeah, no, he's he's I guess, and obviously we're going to talk about the whole episode, so I'm jumping to the end because the conclusion of this episode will be that the Joan is also a TV show for another Joan.
Yeah, it's simulation theory, which I have thoughts on.
Yeah, no, we'll get to that, but it does make me feel like we missed out on even the slightest glance of baseline universe Mac.
Which, who I must imagine is just awful.
Well, here's the thing, right? Because I think what's actually happening here is that, the idea is that he's pretty bland because he then gets played up in the simulation TV show.
Yeah.
I think that's generally what's happening here, right? We're getting, a little bit of, we're getting hints of, oh, yeah, this is a TV show because they have zany dialogue, with Corpo NB, who I think just turns out to be a guy. But the show's not entirely clear on that.
I'm gonna keep with ambiguously gendered.
Yeah, my notes say Corpo GNC.
It's good.
But yeah, no, they have snappy dialogue, and they're you know.
They do the slow lean-in kiss, too, which, like, I think is,
Yeah.
if you're gonna do an affair, I don't know if that's how you do it, you know? I don't think you do the slow lean-in kiss, then batch of regret, you know?
Yeah, no.
I'm inexperienced in affairs, though, specifically.
I'm very proud of a pun that I came up with here, which is because I was like, oh, they're not doing the smash cut to sex, which, in short, you could just call it the smash cut.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, like, I think, like, they're keeping it deliberately low energy in this beginning. Which is, you know, that's respectable. It's a little bit of they're hitting a lot of horror notes.
Yeah, like, I think that was the curiosity for me is, and it's hard to sort of analyze this without having the entire plot read out, but, like, it does feel like maybe 5 different directors worked on this one episode, and, like, I kind of like it. Like, I don't think it's intentionally good, but it creates something that really transcends its actual premise, which, like, its actual premise is like that's pretty funny, but...
Yeah, no, like, I do think, like, at this point, like, we are doing basically a straight down the line, like, mundane horror, right? She's just, like, got a bad life, and it's just, like, played, like with a bit of exaggeration. Like, there's, like, horror strings. There's, like, deep, deep, deep. That's the music.
It's what I imagine middle-aged women from the suburbs watch, essentially.
Ooh, scathing words. Yeah, no, like, I like this intro. It's charming. Annie Murphy gets to bust out her, sort of quirky charm chops. It works to pull you in, I think.
I think one of the good things, actually, like, if we were to look at that section alone, is that it does genuinely make the character of Joan, who Annie Murphy is playing here, both terrible as a person, but also, like, sympathetically, like, yeah, I can see how you end up there.
Yeah, no, like, she's a fun person to hate.
Yeah.
Like, I would watch Joan is awful.
Yeah, like, it's there's a genuine banality of evil edge to her as a character, but also, like, she's a blorbo. She's like a pathetic piece of garbage.
Yeah, no, it's great. And one thing I do want to flag here for later use is, like, the sort of, like, impersonality of the board of directors on behalf of whom she is doing the firing of a character who doesn't really return. But yeah, no, like, I think that is an interesting contrast to later actually having a CEO with a face.
Yeah.
But yeah, do we have any more thoughts on paragraph 1?
I don't think so. I think it serves its purpose.
Yeah. And it buys us in. Like, it gets us interested into, like, because there's something, like there's a tension to the mundanity because something is about to happen. There's, like, a little bit of horror grammar here. Like, we're being set up. What are we being set up for? Well, I've already mentioned it, but Joan and Krish, the boyfriend, discover a Streamberry show titled Joan is Awful. Now, I already need to stop here, because Streamberry is...
very oddly named, right? Because it's Netflix. It's extremely explicitly Netflix.
It's aggressively explicitly Netflix. They use the Netflix sound.
Yeah, and not even, like, a twist on it. It's just the...
Yes, fully. Like, it's just straight down the line Netflix.
You know, because this is, like, where I feel like if you're watching, like, an adult animated comedy, this is where they're like, oh, it's not Apple, it's Pear, and, like, that's the level of satire we're dealing with here. But they go with Streamberry, and I'm just like, what?
Yeah, no, that is weird. But, like, I think they're doing...
Don't worry about the cat. I know it's very easy to get distracted by the cat swatting the window with no insect inside.
Does the cat get a podcast name?
No, it's just the cat.
The cat doesn't know the insects on the other side of the window. But yeah, no, I think, like, this is, like, fully winking at the camera.
Yeah.
And like, I think that is also quite... Because, like, Netflix, like, signed off on this episode. Like, they're going to be, like, a little bit critical of the big corporations, but, like, Netflix signed off on this episode, and they signed off on being, like, the weird punchline for the Streamberry bit that is, like, playing on the familiar sounds of the Netflix interface.
Yeah, I also, it's just one of those things too where, like, if you just said, like, okay, it's called Streamberry, it has the Netflix intro, I assume it would be like a pastiche, like they mixed a bunch of different streaming services together.
Yeah.
But that's not what it is. It is Netflix.
It is Netflix.
It is unambiguously Netflix.
Moving on. Depicted by Selma Hayek, the unlikable fictionalized version of Joan, plays out events from Joan's day. I don't agree with the summary. Like, this is like a weirdly cool version of Joan that's like played up for effect.
Right, because this makes her banal evil look intentional.
Yeah, no, like she's like the fun to hate version of Joan is Annie Murphy Joan.
Yeah.
And Selma Hayek is like a weird played up version. Like, disagreeing, but moving on. Krish leaves after seeing the fictional Mac and Joan kiss. The program shows Hayek's Joan discovering Joan is awful also, with its own version of Joan, before Hayek's Joan is left by Krish, played by Himesh Patel, who, we love to see.
We love to see. I also just, like, I think this is where I couldn't really restrain my commentary as we were watching this. Because,
No.
like, this is what, like, 15 minutes in? Something like that?
Yeah.
And they've already closed the loop.
They've already closed the loop, and what's more, like, the loop is not yet closed. What, like, the events of the episode are within the episode already affecting the episode. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, no, which is super weird, and like, at one point I was like, is this literally hell? Like, is this what they're going with? Because, like, it doesn't actually make sense on any other level.
No, it's a stunning move, honestly. Like, I know this is probably the sort of stuff that, you know, sometimes directors get addicted to the sauce of being meta.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's entirely what's happening here, because I actually think it comes off as being like, oh, okay, that's weird and kind of funny.
Yeah, no, and I do think it also works just because it moves the plot along.
But it is like the point where you're like, okay, you have closed the loop. There's like two things you can do with this concept. You've done one of them.
Yeah.
They are going to do the other one, and then, not to get ahead of myself too much, but they're going to do the two things you can do with this plot, and then they're going to keep going.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't... Like, it is... Like, they do drag it out a bit. Like...
Yes.
But, yeah, no, like, they don't rush the realization. They spend a good amount of screen time on that. But, like, they move to this beat, like, immediately.
And I think, like, this is the point, too, where I'm getting the two directors have started fighting over the direction of the episode. Because as they're doing this, they're cutting between, like, genuine horror background music and her having a panic attack, which is, like, depicted pretty seriously,
Yeah,
I would say. Like,
no,
it's not fucking around. And then, on the other hand, they're depicting the co-workers being like, yeah, what a bitch. And you're just like... It's like mood whiplash, and, like, there's no actual connective tissue, really, between the mood whiplashes there. And yet, like, I kind of like it, but it is, like... It feels like they threw two things at a dartboard, and, like, both kind of work, but they're not connected.
Well, I honestly, like, don't have that many thoughts about this part, because, like, there's so much more to come.
Yeah, no, this is very early as far as analysis is concerned. I'm just, like... I think it really hints to where this is gonna go, in a way.
Honestly, like, I didn't feel them showing their cards at this point.
Okay.
To me, they were, like... I was purely puzzled. Like, that's why I thought they were in hell, because I didn't understand where they could be going with this. Which, I guess that does fit with your point. But, so...
Overall theme is confusion so far.
Yeah, no. But interest, like, we're still hooked. So, in the next section of the episode, Joan is fired, which, again, like, the escalation is, like, extremely fast. And the episode starts to look at the camera in the next scene, I would say, when a lawyer says, no, you can't do anything. Seriously, you can't do anything about this? This is not in the script that you can do anything about this.
It's a really fascinating episode, because it's a really fascinating scene, because it's so long.
Yes.
And, like, I don't know how much of, like, that's the joke, because on some level... This strikes me as something at least some directors would genuinely put in to be like, no, I know Reddit's gonna be mad about this plot hole. No, the other side, it's not artificial gravity in space, they have magnetic boots, and we're gonna spend 10 minutes establishing this. You know, like it's...
Yeah, no, but that's not what's happening.
That's not what's happening.
They're looking at the camera and they're telling us, no, we're not treading down this path.
Kind of, but it takes a really long time for them to do that, not treading down the path.
Which is strange.
So it's like, I feel like they could have picked it and just said, oh, we're gonna hand wave that, and just say, yeah, they can do that.
See, I think what's also happening here is that they're letting the realization linger. Right?
But, like, there's not a lot of emotional weight behind that. Like,
she does act it, like, quite substantively, though.
But I'm thinking for, like, the audience, because, like, the moment you hear, yeah, like no one's gonna buy that this is something that would actually fly in a court of law, right? So you just go, okay, this is a scene for the show to establish we're not gonna pretend that this is legally real.
No, it's, like... It's weird. It's really weird how long they take for this. But and there's going to be another scene like this.
Yeah.
There's another scene like this coming up soon. Yeah, they just, like, briefly go over, like, the mechanics of the plot. The show is made by a quantum computer, which has a special place in my heart. Using CGI-based virtual actors and real-time data gathered from Joan's devices. And at this point, my notion that they're in hell is already discarded, because they're basically just waving the quantum wand instead and going like, oh, yeah, no, that's how they could have the show be produced as it was airing. Like, that's their route, which... Fair, I guess.
Which is also one of those things, because now they've closed, like, the loop of, is there a mystery here? Because, no, like, everything's been explained.
Absolutely,
like, it's just,
not.
There is no mystery, there are no questions, apart from, okay, what's happening next?
Yeah.
Like, there's just nothing... Like, in a weird way, I find it's quite wild to just, like, so effectively shut down all of the potential questions the audience could be asking.
Yeah, which I do admire that.
It's a bold storytelling decision, because, like, even just, like, leaving the question of how the hell are they doing this could be really powerful, and, like, given the sort of horror vibes they've set up in the first act, I could totally see them going down that path.
Yeah.
But they don't.
At this point, I write in all capital letters, it's recursive. But one thing I did, like, mentally note is that, no, we're just looking at, like, initially we're just seeing 3 layers. We're never seeing the show within the show have its own show within a show.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it is like, it's recursive in the sense that is implied, but it is never, like, by the show itself actually gone after. Like, we never see beyond the layer that Joan can see on TV, right? Like, it stops.
It's like a video game thing where you have, like, mirrors that reflect each other once, so you'd be like, yeah, okay, they thought about this, but you can't spend too much resources on this, which is, like, it makes a lot of sense, just purely production-wise, but...
On the other hand, like, they just, like, fully, like, forego the chance to do foreshadowing here. Yeah. To have the show within the show also have its show within a show.
Because the joke ends at Salma Hayek, who's playing Joan, sees Kate Blanchett playing Salma Hayek and goes, okay, that's it. and then that's the shutdown.
They do not move further and do not give us a drop of a hint that is actually where they're going. I had another note here because now this is where our lack of research comes to bite us a little bit, because like there was a news story a while ago that there's a very specific thing they're referencing in the episode where they go, oh yeah, you know how when you mention something you see it on in your search ads or whatever later, and you know, for the longest time you would like intermittently see articles like, oh yeah, no, like it's just like a coincidence, and you know, the algorithm's just kind of good. However, there was like semi-recently an article that like a company is straight up like advertising this as an actual service. And as far as I know, that's all there is. That is all the reporting that has been done, that this is being advertised as an actual service. And it's never really been proven or disproven whether it's a scam, they're just lying, or whether it's an actual thing. That said, I think we can move on to the next paragraph of the Wikipedia summary.
Yeah, so this is... There's some turns coming up.
Yeah. To get a reaction from Selma Hayek, Joan, with a penis drawn on her forehead, dresses as a cheerleader and defecates in a church, interrupting a wedding. After this is depicted in Joan is Awful, the TV show, Hayek speaks to a lawyer when the whole scene repeats, who says that Streamberry can use her likeness like this as she has licensed it to them. Hayek meets with Joan, and they plot to destroy the quantum computer. That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. I think, like, if we're gonna hint towards, like, some analysis of what this episode is trying to say, and I'm just gonna ignore the last sentence about the plot to destroy the quantum computer, because I think we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, like, I think this is where, the first time where I go, okay, I feel like I have an idea of what this episode is saying. It's trying to suggest that if you, as an individual, are being predated upon by corporations, the only way to get some sort of justice is by using celebrity voices. And, like, hope, you know, it's kind of like the, let's put my surgery costs on GoFundMe. And then they just say, no, actually, the celebrities are fucked too.
Yeah, no, that's... Like, you think that would... Like, the way they present it as it's happening is that, like, oh, yeah, no, she's going through her. Like, the initial phrase they're using is blowing a gorilla up, an orangutan.
An orangutan, yeah.
But instead she does the defecating in a church thing. And... I need to turn off the TV because I just saw John Mulaney.
Classic issue.
And they didn't go quite there. Which probably wouldn't have made for great watching. But, like, they do go to the dressing as a cheerleader and defecating in the church, which is, like, the speedrunning Harley Quinn. Like, just as a look. Just, like, that's just in there.
It was really just Harley Quinn. Like,
fully.
Like, because I've heard, like, a short summary of these episodes before doing this, and I saw an image of, you know, Harley Quinn Joan on Netflix as we were starting up this episode, and I was like, I have no idea what Harley Quinn Joan comes from. Like, yeah. And I had no idea.
No, it's...
Also, like, I just want to say, this is, like, a super detail. They really missed, like, an obvious, like, brick joke of having them say they could have her shit in a church instead of having her blow an orangutan, right? Like, such an obvious setup they could have made way earlier.
Yeah, no, it's... I mean, honestly, I think they might have had that in the first draft.
Entirely possible.
And then someone was like, we can't do that. Maybe Selma Hayek intervenes. But yeah, no, it's an odd miss. And it is another scene where a lawyer just, like, goes, no, that's not where this plot is going.
For an extended period of time. Like, I really think, like, this is not, like, a thing where we just see that happen for, like, 30 seconds to re-establish that, okay, Salma Hayek can't do anything about this either. They do the lawyer scene, again, essentially in full.
It's not quite as long, I feel.
Not quite, but, like, it's close.
I don't, like, I guess if you do one of them long, you gotta do both of them long. Maybe? I don't...
It's like...
I don't actually know. No, not at all.
I think like
why?
it's a narrative symmetry thing, but I'm like, you don't need to... Not everything needs to be symmetrical.
Yeah, no, it's... Like, and they fully go for symmetry. It's like, oh yeah, it's like, it's... Both of them have signed... Joan has the user agreement, Selma Hayek has the... whatever licensing agreement, and both of them have like, oh yeah, it's paragraph 8 of like a different thing. Like they really go for the symmetry, which
you could have done the symmetry in 30 seconds.
How do we feel about them equating the standing of celebrities with the standing of normal people in the face of capitalism surveillance?
I think it's very odd. Like, I think this is the sort of thing where perhaps a more well plotted out and well themed piece of media might have acknowledged the separate positions while still noting that there are potential for abuse in both relations.
Yeah.
And equating them not on the very literal level that they do here.
Yeah.
But rather on a metaphorical of like, okay, we're both being fucked by capitalism.
Yeah.
Just in very different ways.
But in this case, it's exactly the same.
Yes. Like, I mean, it's interesting because, like, I think Joan is being shown as kind of like a upper-ish middle-class person.
Yes, she's a middle manager.
Yeah, and she has a lawyer. Like,
Yeah.
she says, I'm going to see my lawyer about this.
Yes.
Which, like, makes total sense if you're Salma Hayek and you're a very famous actress. It makes
Yeah.
a little bit less sense if you're just around working a corporate job.
Yeah.
Like, we're kind of both bringing Salma Hayek down and fictional Joan up to sort of make that equation of like, we're all equally being fucked, when clearly we, having to mush them together into the same strata inherently implies that they're not being fucked equally.
Yeah. Moving on?
Yeah, I think so. It's just a weird one, but like...
Oh. Well,
I don't know, do we have anything to say about the church scene itself?
I don't think so. I think it just is. It's mercifully short. Like, they don't linger on it, and I don't think the show would gain much from if they did.
Yeah, I think they really could have.
Yeah.
And and this is a low bar to be fair, but I am impressed they did avoid that, because like that's such an obvious of like, yeah, let's do gross out humor for like 5 minutes.
Yeah, so I think we should repeat the end of the last paragraph.
Yes,
Hayek meets with Joan and they
plot to destroy the quantum computer.
Yeah, I guess that, like, there is, like, a little bit of an intermission there.
Where they actually, like, talk to each other.
And they have to... it takes them a second to realize, no, we are the same. Which, again, weird, but they do, like, at least spend some time, like, establishing that that's
warfare,
not a given.
Yeah.
What's their plot to destroy the quantum computer? Hayek convinces a receptionist to allow her into Streamberry's office and lets Joan in. They pass the CEO,
Mona Javadi?
Yeah, who explains to the journalist Fatima Klaas, it's very Dutch,
It is.
that Streamberry plans personalized computer-generated content for all users. Joan was chosen as she is completely average, whilst the negativity of the Joan is awful brand maximizes engagement.
Well, specifically they mentioned that, like, this is... Because I don't think they really say here, but, like, I think the point they're making here is that presenting negative stuff maximizes engagement.
Yeah, so you haven't seen The Matrix, is that correct?
I've seen the first Matrix. And the second, I think.
So, I forget which Matrix this is. But this is fully the thing from The Matrix, where they go, oh yeah, we made a nice Matrix, and no one believed it. That is literally a thing they do here.
That's
briefly.
pretty close, like, word for word. It said, like, yeah, we tried making positive content, and people didn't give a shit. They thought it was phony, and then we made really bad, like, very negative content.
Yeah.
And that was super relatable to people. Which is like, okay, now we're having a very different message. Like,
yes.
I'm on board for what you're saying, but there is a weirdness here, I think, because, like, okay, like, the the thesis statement right now, there's a lot of thesis statements in this episode, but the current thesis statement in the 3 minutes that this is happening is people want to hear negative things about themselves and people that they see as relatable, right? Because the point is that Joan is completely average, she's relatable to everyone who's watching Joan is Awful, the show inside of the episode.
Yes.
And, like, I'm not told... Like, I get what they're saying, I just don't believe they're correct. And I'm not saying that in, like, a base, I'm looking into human nature stuff. I'm just like, people are really into negativity. Not that much into negativity about themselves. I mean, like, this feels like something that would apply to, like, incels, right?
Yeah, and I wrote down a little phrase that they have here. Mesmerized horror.
That was a really good phrase.
Yeah, no, and, like, I do think, like, in this, like, compact portion, they do make, like, I think a fairly cogent, if not wider integrated statement about the way that we sometimes engage with social media.
Like, it's doom scrolling, right? It's like,
yes,
or
I
like,
think that's what they're actually talking about, which is why it doesn't, like, quite connect to Netflix. But,
and
like,
it also doesn't connect to, like, seeing negative content about yourself,
yeah,
seeing negative content about your environment.
I feel like they're, like, sort of, like, tangentially approaching a point.
Yeah.
But like, and then they swerve.
Yeah, because this is the only part where that thesis statement exists. It exists for those, like, 2 minutes where this CEO lady is explaining to the journalist. And then it doesn't come up after that. It doesn't really come up before that either.
No, it's just like, it feels like very much like something... I don't know if Charlie Brooker tweets.
I seems like an extremely tweetable person.
Yeah, no, but, like, I feel like this is just, like, a thought that's, like, a slightly larger than tweet size, and he was just like, I can sneak this into the episode, and, like, divert, like, 3 minutes of an episode to, like, talk about this briefly at no deep formulation.
In a weird way, I honestly think this episode is such a, like, beautiful... like, it's just a compact version of Black Mirror. It's a synecdoche for the entirety of Black Mirror and Charlie Brooker as a writer, I think. Like, it's such a, like, I can sneak in one more thesis statement, just, like, on the side here. Like, we just glue it on there. No, guys, it's okay. It's not going to distract from the episode.
It's distracting very much from the episode.
It really is, because, like, you needed to pick one. Or, like, two. But there's quite a lot. And I also think, like, it's weird, right? Because this does, I think, kind of conflicts with the text from earlier, which is that they're playing up how shitty Joan is. Like, they're making her a cool corporate bitch.
Yeah.
Instead of, like, a bit of a fumbling, self-interested but not, like, evil person. So, like, they're actually taking away the relatability. Like, they're turning her from person you would actually see on a dating app to person that lesbians asked to step on them on, well, every posting platform, really.
There's, like, another thrust that's going on here. Because it's also about Selma Hayek, right?
It's oddly about Selma Hayek.
Like, the show gets very, I want to say, twee at this point. Like,
they really like Salma Hayek, and, like, I get it, but I'm like, I think that's another thesis statement, is that Salma Hayek is a good actress. And, like, okay, but like, I just don't get it.
I think, well, here's the thing.
Like, it is a running gag.
Yes, no, compared to, oh yeah, mesmerized horror is all that keeps you sticking to your screen. Like, that thesis statement pops up more frequently, or like that sort of twee vibe pops up more reliably than the mesmerized horror thesis, which is just like, here you go. Anyway,
like, it's a good running gag. Like, I laughed, it's funny, but I'm also just like, they really stick to it. Like,
they really stick to it.
It really feels like it became more than just a gag. Like, they started with, like, this is funny, and then at some point, Like, they repeated it to themselves so many times during shooting that they were like, yeah, this is an integral part of the episode. This really says something about the world, and specifically Salma Hayek's place in it.
Yeah. I had another thought here that belongs to this segment, but not, like, to this section of the episode, but is not contiguous with what we've previously discussed, which is the CEO. Now, we've previously established that Streamberry is Netflix.
Yeah.
And now we're going to do some live Googling.
Okay, I'm excited.
But if I'm not mistaken, yeah, the CEO of Netflix is not a woman.
Correct.
The CEO of Netflix is not a woman of color. The CEO of Netflix is Reed Hastings, who is like a bit of a prolific white guy in his 60s. He's what actual CEOs look like.
Yeah. I do think this is a bit reflective of Black Mirror in general, and like, I think Black Mirror is what like, kind of what right-wing people think all Netflix shows are, aka having people who are not white men. And like, you can kind of tell that in this episode a lot, right? Because it's meant to be like in the modern world and stuff like that. So we get like a couple of queer couples, we get like a fair number of people of color, like...
We get back-to-back queers.
Yeah, we get back-to-back queers. And that one, I was just like, wow, you're really making efficient use out of time to be like, look, we have two separate types of queers here represented. And I kind of raised an eyebrow at that, but... I was like, okay, I mean, sure, it's kind of representation.
I mean, it's there and then it passes.
Yeah, because like, I don't think we see those characters ever again after that. They react to the show's, the episode's twist.
Yeah.
Or not twist, but like, inciting incident, I guess you would call it.
They cease to be relevant.
Immediately.
Much. Yeah. Which, like, I guess at points of the episode after that, all that matters is Salma Hayek.
Yes. But I do think it's interesting that they make the CEO a woman of color who's like, I would guess in her like 30s or 40s, like just young too for a CEO. And it's kind of like, it does take away a little bit of like a real point of hierarchical issue in actual corporations.
Like, well, it's very odd, because like it's just like, oh no, that's not the dystopia we're interested in.
Right, it's like simultaneously very dissociated from the actual dystopia we live in that they're representing through this like caricature of all of these different corporate things. Like, I think it's, based on this episode alone, Charlie Brooker does not think that having more women in power would mean lead to less war, Like, I think he would be like, no, women are equally as warlike. And I respect him for that, but also, like, when it comes to, like, dealing with corporate, like, kind of authoritarianism that's going on here, it's like, this is, like, an aspect that...
For the listener, I just sort of threw up my hands and I'm like, yeah,
sure did.
So, where do we go from this?
Oh, it's the heist plot. Now we describe the heist plot.
We fully just spent so much time on them conceiving of the heist plot. I'm repeating a bit here, but we spend some time. Joan and Hayek reach a technician, Beppe, played by Michael Cera.
Sorry, did I name him in the show? Because I feel
like I don't think so.
I would have remembered Beppe.
This is the same thing as Joan being named Joan Tate in the beginning. Like, I don't think Michael Cera's character is named. Who reveals that they are in a simulated reality.
Boom!
Where Joan is based on a source Joan, played by Kayla Lorette, who I don't recognize, with her likeness of Annie Murphy. Hey! Javadi, the CEO, who is a simulation, as they all are now, arrives and begs Joan not to destroy the quantum computer, which would destroy all realities above theirs. I'm correcting the summary here.
Yeah.
Joan realizes that Source Joan has already decided to smash the computer and follow suit. She follows suit in that she completes the thing that she has to.
That source Joan did, and thus she's
Yes.
commanded to. And yeah, that's the twist. That's the twist of the episode. And I don't know why it exists.
It's doubly strange because that's not at all what the TV show would be showing, because in the base reality there is presumably no one saying no, you're in a simulation, unless that technician really has a powerful bluff plan to
incredible mind
save
games.
the computer,
which is also I feel like I feel the need to mention that they make a very very forced running joke of Salma Hayek saying "computa" because Spanish, you see, so it's computer, but puta, it's
See, what I picked up there was simply, they would have a stupid word for the quantum computer.
Also
And
true. Yeah.
I think that is one of the more incisive points of satire of the show.
Which is saying something, maybe, when you phrase it like that, but...
Yeah.
But yeah, fundamentally, this twist essentially establishes two things, right? The thing we've been watching is the first layer of the show.
Yeah.
It's one step removed from reality.
Yeah.
And two, that there are a bunch of nested realities that keep going. Which we kind of knew. We had an inkling that this was the case when Kate Blanchett was playing Salma Hayek, who was playing the real Joan.
No, that's what I was saying, though. At that point, I think they had the chance to be, briefly flash Kate Blanchett's show and have it also have a nested show, which they actively didn't do.
Yeah.
And that, to me, is very much the lack of foreshadowing. Just sort of why wouldn't you take 10 seconds to do that? I guess you couldn't get Kate Blanchett, is what I'm thinking.
But you could get her likeness, which is actually fascinatingly in tune with this episode, in a way. But yeah, it's one of those things where okay, so the summation of this is that everything that's happened that we've been watching still happened. This is not it was a dream thing.
Yeah.
Everything has happened. It's just happened with slightly different,
Yeah, no, we've experienced, just the same thing, but, I mean, I just do wonder, if there was one person named Joan who did have a very strange watching experience with us.
Probably quite a few.
I hope so, and I hope they're smashing that computer as well.
I honestly think it would be great to find someone who's whose name is Joan, who works in this sort of middle manager corporate job, and I just want to interview them because
yeah,
obviously it's very far from 1-to-1, you would imagine. Although I think it would be hard to interview them and ask, hey, were you thinking about having an affair previously? But yeah, no, it's just this twist strikes me as kind of and I'm stepping ahead of myself given that this is episode 1 of this podcast. It is kind of the cancer of Black Mirror in a little bit. Because it does not need to exist.
So, here's the thing. I don't think I've wrapped my head around this twist. And I suspect that might be because there's not that much to wrap your head around. But what I'm trying to, right? And, what is the actual benefit of it being there? Because, the episode just slips one layer of reality lower and then just finishes. The twist, does not need to be there.
This is just them doing a rug pull to reveal that there's another rug underneath and go psych, you thought it was a green rug, but it was a red rug that was on the floor.
Yeah, no, it's the most, non-committal rug pull.
It's very strange, because I feel it's delivered with such a we're doing something here energy. And it's not. And here's the thing. I'm not mad about this twist. That's the thing, right? Like, if this was it was all a dream twist, yeah, I'd be mad. But it's not. Like, it's...
Yeah, no, it doesn't undermine anything.
It doesn't rouse my emotions at all.
Like, it...
I am content with this twist.
See... So I think what's actually happening with the rug pull is that they're going... We didn't just get Salma Hayek, we also got Michael Cera for a bit.
I will say Michael Cera being there is... I kind of think it would be a better joke if Michael Cera was just there. You know? Like, he's just the technician.
Yeah,
and they don't acknowledge that he's, like, an actor or anything.
But yeah, no, like, it's... Like, it sort of reflects the previous bit, where there was just, like, a section that was briefly about a thesis.
Yeah.
In that this is also... Like... it's a simulation, like, it doesn't do anything, right? It's just, like, briefly a thesis, and then it continues back to this episode.
Yeah.
Like, this is the most, like, there is a remarkable amount that happened to make the simulation twist be this low impact on the mechanics of the plot.
I think it's interesting because when we started like looking for the plot as well, right? We were talking about how like the Joan we thought were the real Joan, but was the level 1 virtual Joan, is kind of like a bumbling, not fool, but like, you know, like a cog in the machine, right?
Yeah.
Like fundamentally harmless in and of herself, whereas Salma Hayek Joan is the evil corporate bitch who looks good, firing people and condemning them for homelessness. And it does kind of pose the question of, like, what's up with that? Like, why is the first simulation...
They are so tonally different!
Which really also, like, makes me ask the question of, like, what is the Kate Blanchett like? Like, do they keep swinging around? Like, do they keep getting worse and worse? Like, is she genocidal? Is she a dictator?
Like, it's hard to say. Like, do they just... Is it just, like, different genres?
Yeah, like, I don't know if the implication is that the real Joan is actually, like, nice? And they've made her slightly worse? Or, like...
I guess, maybe?
But, like, that doesn't say much. Because, like, the first Joan is... Whether or not she's, like, nice or evil, like, the level 1 Joan, a.k.a. Annie Murphy that we've been following, is... normal, like, right? Yeah, that's the thing, right?
She's just, like, slightly played up for TV, but, like, that doesn't need to have any plot significance.
Yeah, like, and it's very slight, I would say, as well. And it's just, like, it's such a binary jump there. It goes from relatable cog in the machine to, you know, like...
Salma Hayek.
Yeah, Devil Wears Prada stuff.
I genuinely just, like, expected Helen Mirren to show up at some point. Like, there was, like... one point where, like, there was, like, a silhouette, and was like, oh, is Helen Mirren gonna show up?
Also, like, I think while we're delving into, like, the many steps here, there's like, an obvious joke to be made about, like, one of the realities, like, it's a gender swap.
I don't quite follow.
Well, I just said joke about Netflix and, like, all that shit. I think it, like, it would have given me a, yeah, okay. You know? But yeah, like, it's also kind of interesting because we do, shortly after this, swap back to real Joan.
Yeah.
And I think the episode, like, is not trying to make this, like, it's not a Shutter Island thing where it's like, are we still in a dream? Is this another hallucination? No, they're very clearly like, no, this is the real one.
Yeah. Which, like, that is just, like, fundamentally undermining the whole simulation thing.
Yeah.
Because, like, the simulation thing is all about, like, oh, you don't know which layer of the simulation you are. No, you're layer 1.
Yeah,
here's
the map.
Yeah.
But you put a red "you are here" marker, you're the real one.
Yeah.
Is there any question about... No, you're real, it's fine.
Yeah, no, and, like, why are you still here? Because you're real.
Yeah, it's like...
Because you smashed the computer, that's why you're still here.
Here's the thing, I would have been really annoyed if this started with, like, how do you know this one is real? But also, like, it's so interesting that they're so fundamentally incurious about it after introducing that concept.
Like, what it mechanically does is, like, isolate the rug pull to just be, like, a bit that's over now.
That's the thing, right? Because, like, I think that's the summary of the twist, is it's kind of a bit.
Yeah.
But it's also a bit that has, like, weird implications on the plot. And to be fair, my gist from this episode is that they were like, let's make a fun, weird thing. Throw in random stuff to make it seem slightly more philosophical than it might actually be. And then just, shrug our shoulders at, like, all of the... Like, I don't think it's meant to be analyzed. It's kind of my conclusion. Like, I know that's something you shouldn't say about any form of art, but I genuinely believe this is one where they were like, just shut up.
Moving for the finish of the summary.
Yeah, I think, like, it's also just an interesting thing about the point where, like, Joan, that we've been following, doesn't decide to destroy the computer.
No.
But the real Joan does.
Yeah.
And, like, it's interesting because they pose this moral, like, very, very big trolley dilemma, essentially.
And then we don't get to see the person who decides.
We get to see no deliberation. She just goes,
no.
Yeah, I guess it's out of my hands.
Yeah.
Which, like, I feel like there's almost a hint at another thesis statement there about, like, free will.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't think that's intentional. I just think it's like well, logically, I guess if they're in a simulation, well, then it's already decided.
Yeah. I do have another... This goes back to the lawyers, kind of. Because, like, we see here that, like, they do, like, oh, yeah, no, it's a quantum computer. We barely know how it works. It's basically magic. And, like, that is how you deliver a shut up, don't think about this part of a script. So... we have, within the script, that form of shut up, don't think about it present. Mm-hmm. But we don't have that being applied in the lawyer scene.
No, and it's also, I want to say it's interesting because they immediately follow with, think about the consequences. Billions of souls simulated to think they're real. And like, okay, so now you want us to think about it.
Chop?
Yeah.
I guess not. I guess the axe already came down and we weren't involved in the deliberation.
Like, it's fundamentally just a fascinating idea to, like, present the moral problem, have not a solution, just have the situation resolve itself.
Yeah, have the situation end.
Immediately, and then you're just like, I guess I'm gonna think about whether it would have been better for her not to hit that axe, but also, like, your show does not seem committed to actually having us think about that. It just kind of moves on, and it's like, anyways, so maybe those people all, like, ceased existing and they had souls, and now they're gone, but...
well...
axe came down.
Yeah. So... in the Source reality, Source Joan and Annie Murphy celebrate as friends, though they are on house arrest. Source Joan starts a coffee shop, a dream of hers that she shared with her therapist. In a post-credit scene that I think I missed, Source Joan's church defecation is shown.
Oh, no, I did see that, yeah. She's just, like, a little bit more awkward, which I think also, like, kind of answers our earlier question about, like, is the real Joan, like, nice? And it seems like, yeah, like, a little bit nicer. That's the end of that.
Yeah.
But, like, still having done seemingly all of the things that, first level Joan did.
So, like, there is something that happens here that actually finishes the episode in, like, a bit of a, like, neat bow. Because, like, they do have this whole bit about, like, us. We have Selma Hayek. Isn't that so cool? And, as I said, the show gets real twee about it. And, like, it finishes extremely tweely by, like, having Annie Murphy walk into a coffee shop and, ooh, they're besties. Isn't that sweet and charming?
You could be a bestie with Annie Murphy, I guess. Also, like, I do think this is where, in a way, this is the first time the thesis statement kind of has support from earlier in the show. Because I think here... because they have, like, a really nice shot of real Joan walking out into, like, a forested boulevard or something like that. And, like, looking at the sun and, like, stuff like that. And I think the thesis statement is touch grass. I genuinely think the thesis statement is, like, what if you just touched grass? Disconnect, man. Like, stop watching YouTube. And that was the moment where I was like, this is Black Mirror.
Honestly, was I there for that scene?
I think so, yeah.
That scene did not register.
I don't know. It's like, she's talking to her therapist. She's in the coffee shop, and then there's one moment where she like just walks out. And, like, but you know, like it's general. I don't think it's super important, that specific scene, although I think it has some genuine artistic merit, because it's interesting. Like it's this entire like last section is kind of like soothing music, like a bit of tranquility. The coffee shop is nice.
Yeah, no, like, this is a happy ending.
This is a really happy ending.
Like, they go for, like, a very cute shot where it's like, oh yeah, it's her and Annie Murphy with matching ankle monitors.
Yeah.
Like, that is how they choose to, like, wrap up the episode.
Besties.
Which is, like...
Yeah,
huh?
I don't know, like, fundamentally, I think maybe the thing I'm most confused about when it comes to, like, trying to glean any symbolism from this is Annie Murphy / Salma Hayek. I don't know why they're in here. Like, just very pragmatically, like, why is Annie Murphy besties with real Joan? Why was, like...
Because they smashed the computer together.
Yeah, like, why is this a found family thing now? Is it like solidarity in the face of corporate overreach or something?
It's very strange because, like, it returns to the, like, no, there's no class difference. These two women are the same. These two women are the same under capitalism, and that's why they can be besties. I think this is maybe taking a few steps back, but I feel like it might end up tying to this. Not sure yet. But, like, you know how we have back-to-back lawyer scenes?
Oh, yeah.
And how they're like, nah, the law can't help you to do shit. And the solution the episode arrives at is smash that computer with an axe. like this episode is like, if you do sabotage, if you do Luddite machine smashing, if you smash the loom, you will be besties with Annie Murphy. Which is like...
Yeah, I think in that regard, this might be the most explicitly, like, and simplistically Luddite the show has ever been. And, like, most of this show is Luddite, right? Like, in the derogatory sense of Luddite, I would say. So, the way this one just goes immediately, axe, is just like, wow, you really boiled it down.
And, like, here's the thing. Now we're back at Streamberry.
Yeah, okay.
Because Netflix is looking at you in this episode, and they're going like, yeah, no, isn't it cool to be Luddite and smash the computer? like, they approved this. They're like, Netflix is appearing in this episode. Reid Hoffman, the CEO of Netflix, very much isn't.
No, but slightly
Netflix...
more.
Yeah, no, Netflix, the program, the company, is appearing in this episode. And they're looking at you and going like, oh, yeah, no, isn't that cool? Isn't that crazy? They are so not threatened by what they are producing.
I think that's a really interesting thing, and I think...
Like, this is... So, a little view behind the scenes, dear listeners. We wanted to do this starting at the very last episode, but instead I mixed up and Netflix was confusing. So, we actually watched the first episode of the last season, which works well enough.
Yeah, we can probably play it off as something recursive or meta about it.
But, like, see, when I was watching this, I was like, this kind of feels like they're going out with a bang, like they're showing the big middle fingers, as sort of like the final episode of the season. But no, it's like a bit buried. It's like kind of buried in the season. It's like, you will have forgotten about this by the end of the season.
Well, I think, like, this is I'm gonna try. I have made a genuine commitment here to Black Mirror to not just be mean to it. And I want to restate, I enjoyed this episode. I think it was a fun romp. But I also suspected that when Netflix looked at this episode, they went, I don't think anyone's gonna take anything out of this.
Yeah, no, just like don't have the blowing of the gorilla quite so literally.
Yeah, like I think it's just one of those things too where like I think this is kind of like, and it harkens back a little bit to like the what if Netflix's CEO was a hip diverse person. It's like this all becomes so blurred as to like who am I, and like I know this is a very simplistic view of it, but like who am I supposed to blame here, right? Like is it Netflix specifically? Or is it like your phone? Because that's like a plot point, is that your phone apparently records everything in remarkable detail, might I add.
Yeah.
And I'm not trying to do plot holes, because like, if we were trying to look for plot holes, there could be a lot of them.
Yeah.
And I think it's unproductive. But like, it kind of becomes this weird blur where like, okay, so corporations are evil, sure. Netflix specifically is apparently evil.
Mm-hmm.
Phones are bad, because they're the method of corporate control. But you also start going into like, okay, the law allows them to do this.
Yeah.
So the law is also at fault here.
Yeah.
And also you get the specific CEO who is a bitch.
Yeah.
And Joan...
But not Reid Hoffman.
Yeah. So it's like, I think it becomes so diffused in who you're supposed to turn this like supposedly aroused anger. Now, I don't think necessarily emotion is much aroused out of this episode. But if there was, like, a target, I think it's so diffuse that, like, you end up not knowing where to go.
I disagree.
Okay.
I think the way it becomes diffused is not by virtue of being so non-focused, because it does say, smash the computer.
It does say smash the computer.
It does, I think it sort of escapes into hyperbole, and, like, the tweeness serves to potentially disarm the message, and I think that's maybe giving it a bit much credit, but I do think, like, the escape into hyperbole is kind of what's like, oh yeah, no, obviously you wouldn't smash the computer.
I think there's a point there where, like, I think an extremely silly satire can absolutely work, but this is not pointed enough satire, right?
No.
If you will, the axe is not sharp enough to take on the real computers of capitalist dystopia.
Yeah, no, but, like, and, see, I thought I wouldn't get to make this point, but now I'm coming back around to it actually being relevant, because, like, when the lawyer scenes were happening, when the lawyer goes, like, no, they can do this, you can't do anything about this, I thought, like, oh, yeah, no, this is dystopia by way of disempowerment, right? And we, outside the episode, as in we the podcasters, we have had conversations, because very recently I listened to an interview with a German fascist, who was like, oh, yeah, no, obviously you can tax the rich, they just get away with it. And... you know, I thought I wouldn't get to make the, like, disempowerment is, part of the program. I thought I wouldn't get to make that point, because they do say smash the computer. But then again, like, Netflix released it. Netflix thinks you can make it twee enough that nobody will want to smash the computer after watching this.
Also, like, I don't mean to buy into the world too much, but surely they can make a second computer. Like, you know...
It's strange, because...
it's treated as a god. It's treated like, this is an alien artifact we found.
Yeah, no, but,
and
like...
it's not.
Yeah, no, like, the plot is just like, I'm done. This is... the episode is so over. Like, it ends so definitively.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you smash the computer, you get a coffee shop, you're good, you're besties with Annie Murphy.
Yeah.
And
like, it's also just like, I think it's wild how I'm surprised by how happily the show or the episode ended.
Fully.
Because it's like, it's not even just like, okay, she got to work outside, like she got out of the corporation, she's best friends with Annie Murphy, who I still don't really understand the plot relevance of, but I'll accept it at this point. It's also like, she talks to her therapist and she's basically like, yeah, my life is great now.
Yeah.
And she says it more haltingly to make it more relatable, but she is like, I have no issues anymore.
She's doing great.
Even with being on house arrest. Like, they don't even allow her to have any anguish over that, really, apart from saying some days are bad.
Yeah, which, you know, some days are bad for everyone.
Yeah, like, it lacks
You're on house arrest. You're besties with Annie Murphy. It's... like, it's...
I think it's so, like, interesting, like, just a through line of who supposedly has power in this society, right? Because... we're not we're drawing a line here. Famous actors, no power. Corporations, apparently all the power. But also, like, this supposedly massive act of vandalism just gets her own house arrest. This, like, completely disempowered worker, essentially.
Yeah, no, like, she has smashed the system successfully.
Yeah. And got, like, and then the system catches her and they go, alright, you're gonna do community service, terrorist.
Like, the implication is that she somehow solves the problems of the world.
I know. It's striking. And, like, I think it's also just one of those things where, like, this is... It really feels on some level like this is the showrunners going, what if cyberpunk but just, like, one business? What if just one business went cyberpunk? And, like, the rest of the world is fine. Like, you can open a coffee shop and have it be successful and be friends with Annie Murphy. Besties with Annie Murphy.
You know, I don't really have more to add than that. I think the best we can do with this episode is take it by its word.
I wish I could have started this instead of that, because, like, I think before you watch this, which I know this is the wrong part to say it now, but before you watch this episode, you should, like, keep a running tally. Just, like, every 5 minutes or so, evaluate, do you think this is a comedy episode? Do you think this is a horror episode? Do you think this is a drama episode? Do you think, like, what do you think the thesis statement is? Because, like, there's a lot. Like, I really, when we started this, was fascinated by, like, the beginning's really slow, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, for an episode that's, 45 minutes? 56 minutes, it says. It's really slow in the beginning, and just plays it so straight for a bit. Like, yeah, this woman's life is falling apart, her fiancé is leaving her, her affair is getting, her, like, mini affair is getting exposed, and all of her insecurities are coming out.
It's not even a proper affair, she just kisses him.
Yeah. Well,
and the show dramatizes him.
Yeah, and it's just like, then that's just out the window.
Yeah. We basically just kick into a higher gear every like step of the summary.
It starts with some sort of like in a weird way like a workplace drama,
yeah,
right? Like with a bit of a comedy edge, but like
a bit of mundane horror.
It's like a The Office, right?
Yeah.
Like a little bit of that. And then it's like a personal drama for quite some time, actually, with weird comedy inserts from like the Greek chorus. And then like, okay, it's now a heist movie. And a heist movie with like a horror end where she supposedly kills billions of people. Immediately skipped over any sort of like thinking about that. She has a coffee shop now, so like she might be the world's worst monster of all time, but she does have a coffee shop.
Yeah, but I think we can just trust the episode when it says smash the computer and you'll be besties with Annie Murphy.
I trust it.
I trust it to say that is the only message that this episode has.
And I believe in it.
Yeah, exactly, and I think it's right.